PlayStation Direct, QuakeCon, and your friendly neighborhood Avenger. Let's talk. What up, viewers? What up? What up? Today is Friday, August 7th, and that means it's time for a quick recap of the week. Video game news. Like I said, PlayStation had their State of Play this week, happening on Thursday, and this one didn't quite get to me. This one didn't quite land for me. I'm usually somewhat impressed by the State of Plays. Actually, that's probably a lie. I think I've been pretty down on State of Plays recently, but this one had its ups and downs, but for the most part, it was kind of meh in my opinion. Let's jump in and talk about the actual video games so that we can get to it. Crash 4 was the first thing they started off with. They showed about 10 minutes of gameplay. They were definitely hitting all the right nostalgia buttons to try and get all you Crash fans out there back into the game. I talked about it being an over a decade since a Crash game was released. They showed, the thing that was really interesting that they showed was the replay value. So apparently, I don't remember if it was after you beat the game or you'll be able to go back and you'll be able to play Crash levels, but there will be like a different art style applied to it, and that art style is going to add a level of complexity because like it could be outlined or you could have to like spin to paint the world. Those all seem really unique and a way to spice up kind of the 3D platformer that's kind of aged. So it's a cool way to add replay value to your platformer. But yeah, so if you're looking forward to Crash, that is still coming on October 2nd. The one that I did like, the one that really did pique my interest was Spelunky 2. I saw Spelunky 2 and I saw some gameplay and I was really into Spelunky 1. And then all of a sudden at the end I saw like, oh, there's a date. Oh, it's September. Oh, it's September 15th. Wait, I didn't know that date before. And so like it'll kind of like crash into my head of like, oh wow, Spelunky's coming in like a month. So I'm really excited for Spelunky 2. They talked about having a lot more cooperative play, a lot more the ability to bring more people in, and they kind of shared a story about how Spelunky really grew with like an online scene. I think there's going to be online multiplayer, so they're really trying to build up the Spelunky community, and the game looks fun. They had a small section talking about PlayStation VR. They showed Hitman, and Hitman 3 is going to have the ability to play it in VR, or if it's going to... I didn't quite understand whether or not it's like the whole game can be played in VR, or if there's just like a VR experience you can experience when you own the game. I was a little confused about that. So, but yeah, Hitman is coming to PlayStation VR. They also talked about Vader Immortal, and this is actually I was racking my brain of like, okay, cool, like I've heard of this game, I know what they're talking about. What's the big deal? Vader Immortal. They're bringing it to PlayStation VR for the first time. If you didn't know that, it was previously exclusive to the Oculus systems, but now it is coming to PlayStation VR. I don't think there was a date attached to this one, but I am excited to see that. All the more reason for me to get a PlayStation VR. So I'll have to work on saving up for that one. Auto chess, they're bringing auto chess to PlayStation. Should be fun. I can see like the controller scheme for that. So auto chess is coming at the beginning of October 4th. If you're into auto chess and you don't want to play it on your phone or PC where you would typically play all the other auto battlers. Another one that caught my interest was the Pedestrian. And the thing that caught me was the art style. Everything is drawn like a you would see on a sign, like, you know, you have your basic stick figure guy and it has all these like outlines, and then you're trying to put these signs together so that you can get from like one side of one sign to another, kind of like Portal puzzly like. So I thought that looked really interesting. Looked like a fun, interesting puzzle game coming January 21. Next, they showed off Godfall. They showed like 5 to 10 minutes of gameplay of this as well. Godfall, you know, they're really hitting on this slasher shooter, and they kind of really showed that. They showed the combat, and they keep like beating this drum of like, oh, it's gonna have really unique and intense combat, and it doesn't look that way in the way I've seen the gameplay going out. So I think someone's gonna have to convince me to get into Godfall, or I'm gonna have to see a little bit more gameplay, or maybe even play a demo before I really get into this. I'm definitely looking for a game to be playing with my friends this holiday season when we all get new consoles. And that could be Godfall, but I'm kind of on the fence on it. I think I'd rather play, I don't know, like Monster Hunter World or something. Maybe bring that to PlayStation 5 so that we can all have another excuse to get back into Monster Hunter World. But yeah, the combat just didn't seem like it hit like it's supposed to hit. They showed like a unique combo system, which again reminded me of Monster Hunter World, but it didn't feel as fleshed out as that. So I know the Gearbox, doesn't have a lot of experience with that, but I trust them as developers. So, but the gameplay just didn't hit like I expected them to hit. I'm not covering everything that was at the State of Play, but the last one that really caught my eye was Focus Interactive, and I think I've talked about, or Focus Home Interactive. I've talked about them a lot. I love their games, and so like when I saw Focus, I was like, ooh. There was a game called, it didn't come up until later, and it was all about like stealing from the rich, giving to the poor, and like how you're slowly trying to find your way to find the cache of goods so you can get in and get out. So they made a competitive Robin Hood game, and the competitive part didn't come to the end where it was like, oh, and there's also another gang that is going to be trying to get to the loot, and you're both working your way in, getting the loot, and trying to get out. So it kind of reminds me of like a Hunt Showdown kind of situation where like you and two people get dropped in this Wild West world, and you're gonna have to like go in, get the thing, and get out. Competitive Robin Hood game, count me in. That's enough for me. So maybe I'll be playing that this holiday season. So I didn't cover them all, but those are the ones that really caught my eye, and I thought I would take a minute on for the PlayStation State of Play. So let me know what you thought of it, and if I missed any of the titles that you think are very important or that you are excited about. QuakeCon started this weekend, or started today actually. It'll be running throughout the weekend. It is an all digital showcase, but QuakeCon, for those of you who don't know, is Bethesda's kind of annual convention. But again, it's being taking place digitally. I'll have a link down to the description below of the like 20-minute opening ceremony where they talked about all the games that they're going to be talking about, and then throughout the weekend you get a sense of everything that's going to happen, and they have a lot of really cool panels. I think I sat in on one of the voice acting panels, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, so in the opening ceremony they started off by talking about the vampires coming to Elder Scrolls Online. Yeah, well, Pete Hines started by like saying hello to everybody and talking about the difficulties of trying to bring games out during COVID, which was definitely eye-opening, and it's good to like lead with that because some people might lose context, even though we're all trapped inside. And then they started talking about the vampires that are coming into Elder Scrolls Online at the end of the month. Fallout 76. Of course, I got to talk about that. There's a new boss monster, which looks really creepy, and apparently it's so creepy that it can start like influencing your character, making your character run around in fear. So that was cool. And every time I see more Fallout 76 promotion, I'm like, should I get back into this? So eventually one day you'll see me playing that again. They talked about the first of two, I believe, Doom Eternal DLCs, Ancient Gods. They only had like a 30-second blurb on it, but it looks like it's going to add a whole new world or a whole new level or two for you to go through, and maybe even another boss fight. So that should be fun and interesting to play. They had a small blurb about Ghostwire Tokyo, where and for the most part the only thing I got out of that was that you can pet the dogs, which is always good to be able to pet the dogs in the game. The kind of last thing they started talking about was Deathloop, which again is the game I'm like most curious about coming out of that's coming out from Bethesda. Yeah, Deathloop looks really interesting. They really focused on talking about the villain gameplay, and I forget the character's name. But like they're like, hey, are you gonna play? They're really beating like the two paths of like you're gonna play through the main story, and then you're going to be able to play as the villainous character trying to kill other people, so to reset them on their death loops. I thought that was really interesting, and I really am looking forward to this game. The art aesthetic I think looks a little bit different than we've seen before, but that I think I've seen before. but it's Arcane Studio, so you know kind of what their art aesthetic is. And I think the game looks really cool and interesting, so I'm glad I saw more about it. And then again, speaking of Arcane, they talked about their 20-year collection. They're coming out with a bundle of Prey and the 3 Dishonored games, or Dishonored 1, 2, and 2.5. I think the third part was not really like a full release game. It had like a subtitle, so I think it's like, I don't know if it was meant to be a 3 or a 2.5-ish game, but all of those are coming bundled together. So to celebrate Arcane's 20 years, which, trying to think back to like the first Dishonored game, like, wow, long time ago. So that was it for QuakeCon. They're gonna be having things all weekend, but it was cool to kind of get everything kind of wrapped up and bundled up in the first 20 minutes. So yeah, let me know what you think about QuakeCon. Rounding out our like big topics this week was the Marvel Avengers game, which the beta is going on right now. So I might actually jump into that to see what that game is, because again, that's another game where someone's gonna have to convince me to get into it, because I just can't get past the art of it. And but I'm looking for games to play with my friends, because we're all playing our own indie games right now because it's summer and it's a little bit of a slump. So but getting back to Marvel Avengers, we found out that Spider-Man this week is coming to Marvel Avengers, but drum roll please, he'll only be on PlayStation consoles. So so if you want to play the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, he will only be on PlayStation. I wonder why that is. Oh wait, Sony owns the rights to Spider-Man. So fun to see that Spider-Man is coming to the console, but after reading a few articles about kind of a bummer that Spider-Man gets dragged into this like console war. You know, it's the state of the world right now, so, or it's the state of the games industry, right? So yeah, more incentive to play Marvel Avengers on PlayStation consoles. We've got news that Animal Crossing is now the second biggest Switch title ever sold, which was very interesting, with 22.4 million units, and after only 4 months of sales is quite impressive. I'm actually, fingers crossed, hoping that it beats Call of Duty this year, only because I secretly want any other title to be #1 every year. So I'm kind of tired of Call of Duty being at the top of the charts every year. But I'm really glad that Animal Crossing is doing so well. It's now the #2 title. To run off the top 5 list real quick, Mario Kart 8 is the most sold Switch title, followed by Animal Crossing New Horizons, followed by Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and Breath of the Wild, and then Pokemon Sword and Shield. So that kind of rounds out. I bet #6 is Super Mario Odyssey, but I can't be sure on that one. And then to put that all in context, the Nintendo Switch actually boasted that it has 61 million units sold. So you can start doing attach rates on some of those games, because within the article they go into the individual sales for each of the games. So interesting that Animal Crossing has about a third of people who have Switch own Animal Crossing. So interesting enough to see that. Apple has come out against game streaming services coming to iPhones. So there was a series of articles I saw this week talking about there's bickering between Microsoft trying out the xCloud platform on their on Apple phones, and there was like some bickering, and then everything ground to a halt. And then I saw an article this week that says Apple's like, nope, cut it out. We don't want any of your game streaming services on our phones. This includes Google Stadia will not be coming to Apple phones, which is a big bummer, and which probably means that, do I have to get a Droid now? I've had a Windows phone. I've now had an iPhone. I dropped the Windows phone as soon as there was like an exclusive piece of content on the iPhone that I wanted. So now if I want to play, xCloud or Stadia, I got to do it on either Google's phone, which is a possibility, or on an Android. So I might be changing phones sometime soon. I'll let you know more about that later. Moving right along, Humble Bundle Monthly comes out every month. That is their subscription service, where monthly they give you access to a series of games. I believe it's only $12. And I think I don't know if that gives you all 12 games or if there's a lesser form. I forget how I've only bought into it like once or twice. I I think you buy in for $12, you get one game, and then there's like successive decreasing price on the subscription price. So, but this month's games are really awesome. Again, a lot of them were coming out of, or a couple of them were focused home entertainment games like Vampire and Call of Cthulhu. And then they also had Wargroove and Hello Neighbor on there. Those were the 4 that kind of caught my eye. I own 3 of those games, so I might want to pick up Hello Neighbor if I want to buy into Humble Bundle monthly. And as always, all the Humble, the Humble gives back to charities, so it'll be it's always a good cause to buy on the Humble store. There's a new Game of Thrones mobile game that came out. It's actually available right now. It's called Tales of Crows. So it's about the Night's Watch, and it put a term in when I first saw the title. It put a term in the description that it called it an idle game, and I had no idea what an idle game was. So I had to like go look up like what are idle games and what does this even mean. And then when I was looking through the list of the top 9 or 10 titles, I saw Cookie Clicker in there, and I was like, oh, this is a Cookie Clicker-like game, which I didn't know was a genre. But Game of Thrones is intended to be an idle game, and that means that they kind of like showed off gameplay where like you'll be sending out ravens, and I assume the ravens are going to go out in real time and then come back, and then just kind of piecemeal the story. And I think the story is the central part, and they're kind of telling the like history of the Night's Watch. So I thought that was a very interesting premise for a game, and I'm looking forward. Well, and then I tried to download it, and it's an exclusive for Apple Arcade. So I have to buy in. I could either try it for free, which I haven't done yet, or I could pay into their $5 a month for their trove of games. I saw the Samurai Jack, like they had a bunch of logos on their on the App Store when I brought it up on my phone. I saw a Samurai Jack game, which I'm looking forward to the one at the end of this month. But you know, Apple Arcade, maybe there's more games on there, but you know, I haven't heard many good things or many must-haves. But this game looks fun, so if you have Apple Arcade, download it. Tell me what you think about it. More on mobile games. I think this is the most mobile game stories I've ever had in the in this news report. But Diablo Immortal had a 3-minute gameplay trailer that really showed off what the gameplay is going to be like. They showed off like the small HUD and then how you'll move around the map, and it definitely just they're calling it like Diablo Immortal, but it really struck me as like Diablo 3 mobile game. Maybe that's just me and my prejudice, or there's only so much you can do on mobile. And that was another thing that got to me, was like there was like 8 buttons down at the bottom right of the HUD, and I was trying to like wrap my head around that, and I felt like there was this like paradigm happening in my brain where I'm like, I always look at mobile games and I'm like, no, that's too simple. I want a better game. And then I look at things like Diablo Immortal and I'm like, wow, that looks way too gamey to be on mobile. So it was just like this diadem of like possibilities where I couldn't like get it through my head. But so apparently, if you want me to play your mobile game, it's got to be the sweet spot of like gamey enough to feel like a game, but not too gamey to feel like it should just be on console. When there's like 8 buttons on screen, I don't know what to do. I just want to point my lemmings and have them run out and probably die. Anyway, the gameplay, like I said, it looks very interesting. I don't think you lose any of the fidelity that you would get in like a Diablo game. And they had like the whole thing. They had like boss battles and running around and collecting loot. So definitely the whole Diablo package is there on a mobile game. So if you have a cell phone, you know, look forward to playing that on your cell phone. And last but certainly not least, and most importantly, there was a cool video that I watched this week where Steven Spohn and Ryan Reynolds were talking about a very good cause of Able Gamers, which is a kind of charity organization that makes it so that people with disabilities can still play video games. And I've talked about things like this in the past before. Things like the Xbox Able controller. I forget what the controller was called. But these kind of like bringing gaming to as many people as possible. I know that accessibility is starting to be like the first thing that people talk about when they're talking about game development, is like, how accessible is your game going to be? So I think this is a really good cause. Like, the video is funny. It was really good hearing from Steven Spohn and Ryan Reynolds talking about this thing. So you know, any way that you'd be able to help, talking about charitable organizations, it's always good to be able to help. And it's for a cause that I really believe in bringing video games to all people. So it was a good cause. I'll have a link down in the description to the video and the ways to contribute. So that's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy this content, and if you do, feel free to follow, like, and subscribe to me on YouTube and Twitch so you can see more great content like this. Thanks again. I hope you have a super day. I hope you have a super weekend. I hope you have a super day. Bye!